line in your life, an invisible threshold. And everything you accept, everything you tolerate, everything you settle for exists beneath that line. That line is your standard, not what you hope for, not what you talk about, what you accept, what you consistently allow, what you repeatedly do, even when it's hard. If you've ever wondered why certain things keep repeating in your life, why you get close to success and then slide back, why some habits never seem to stick, why the same kind of people or circumstances seem to follow you, the answer is almost always this: your standards haven't changed. People say they want more. They say they want to change, but they don't raise their standards. And until they do, nothing shifts. You don't get what you want. You get what you tolerate. You don't get what you dream about. You get what your standards demand. It's easy to have high hopes. It's easy to write down goals. It's easy to talk about big plans. But until your standards shift, until the way you operate at your core changes, those goals stay dreams. The results stay inconsistent. The transformation stays out of reach. You can see it everywhere. Two people go through the same situation, face the same obstacles, start with the same tools, but one of them rises, the other doesn't. One of them grows, the other repeats. One of them breaks through, the other gives up. What's the difference? The difference is standards. One person has trained themselves to expect more, to do more, to demand more from themselves, not occasionally, but consistently. They hold themselves to a level that others only talk about. And because of that, they create different results, not just once, but over and over again. Your standards are not set by what you say. They're revealed by what you do when it's uncomfortable, when it's inconvenient, when no one is watching. That's when your true standard shows up. That's where change actually happens. And here's the good news. Standards are not fixed. They're not written in stone. They're not locked into your DNA. You can raise them. You can change them. You can decide right now that what you've accepted in the past is no longer acceptable. That who you've been is not who you're going to be. That what you've tolerated ends here. And once you make that decision, once you truly raise your standard and begin to live at that level, everything begins to shift. Your habits change. Your energy changes. Your relationships, your confidence, your results, everything starts to reflect your new standard. Because you don't have to force transformation when your standard changes. The new results become automatic. You no longer have to fight for discipline. You are simply living at a level where the old excuses don't fit anymore. You're no longer trying to break your limits. You've moved the line entirely. You want a new life? Change what you demand from yourself. Change what you refuse to tolerate. Change what you consider normal. Because the moment your standard changes, your life begins to catch up. The standard you live by is the thermostat of your life. It sets the temperature. And no matter how high or low things go temporarily, you will always return to that setting. You can have a breakthrough. You can have a big win. But if your internal thermostat hasn't changed, if your standards haven't risen, you will sabotage your progress and return to your old normal. That's why people win the lottery and lose everything. That's why people get in shape and gain it back. That's why people build something powerful only to let it collapse. Because the outer result changed, but the inner standard didn't. Their identity didn't grow with their achievement, so they slid right back into the level they were used to. You can't outperform your standards for long. You can rise above them temporarily with effort, with hype, with a burst of motivation, but eventually you will drift back down. Not because you're not capable, but because you're not wired to stay there. Your identity hasn't adapted to the new level. Your beliefs haven't caught up. Your standards haven't recalibrated. And this is the invisible trap that keeps people stuck. They improve just enough to taste more, but not enough to sustain it. They raise their output, but not their standard. And so they crash. And when they crash, they doubt themselves. They tell themselves, maybe I'm not built for this. Maybe I don't have what it takes. But the truth is, they do have what it takes. They just never locked in the new level. To lock it in, you have to upgrade how you see yourself. You have to decide that the way you used to live is no longer acceptable. The way you used to operate, the shortcuts, the inconsistency, the excuses, that's not who you are anymore. You draw a line and you say, that version of me is gone, not someday, now. And this is not just about goals. This is not about doing something impressive. This is about identity. Because when your standard changes, your actions change. When your identity shifts, your behavior follows. You don't have to force it. It becomes automatic. It becomes normal. Because now you've raised the floor of your life, not just the ceiling. Think about that. Most people focus on raising the ceiling. They want to know, how high can I go? But they never ask the more important question. How low am I willing to sink? That's what determines your life. Not your peak, but your average. Not your potential, but your baseline. If your baseline is chaos, struggle, distraction, inconsistency, you can have moments of greatness, but they won't last. You'll always fall back to your baseline. You'll always collapse under the weight of what you built. Because you never raised your standard to support the life you were chasing. But when your standard is excellence, when your baseline is high performance, when your identity is built on follow-through, when your habits reflect consistency, you don't fall back. You don't lose progress. You don't need to rely on willpower. You simply live at a different level. And people will ask you, how do you stay so consistent? How do you keep showing up? How do you get so much done? And the answer is simple. It's who I am now, not what I try to do, not what I force myself to become, but what I've decided to expect from myself every single day. So how do you change your standard? It starts with a moment of truth, a moment where you look at your life, not with judgment, not with guilt, but with honesty. You look at your patterns, you look at your behavior, you look at what you've been tolerating, and you ask, is this who I really want to be? Most people never ask that question. They stay in motion. They stay busy. They keep repeating the same patterns without stopping to reflect. And because of that, they never confront their current standard. They never challenge it. They never upgrade it. But if you do, if you take a moment to ask that question honestly, you will feel it. You'll feel the gap between who you are and who you could be. And that feeling, that discomfort, that's not something to avoid. That's your invitation. That's your call to rise. That's your inner voice saying, you are made for more. And the next step is decision. You make a new decision about who you are. You say, from this moment forward, I no longer tolerate inconsistency. I no longer accept mediocrity. I no longer live at the level of my past. I raise the bar. I raise the floor. I raise me. And once you decide, you act. Not next week. Not when you feel ready. Now, because action is what makes the new standard real. Action is what rewires your identity. Action is what proves to your brain that something has changed. And here's the thing, your brain needs that proof. You can talk all day long about how serious you are, how committed you are, how this time is different. But until you take action that aligns with the new standard, your brain won't believe you, and it will keep pulling you back to the old pattern. So you give it new evidence. You do something you would have avoided before. You follow through when the old version of you would have quit. You execute with clarity and purpose. Not because it's easy, but because you've decided that's your new normal. And every time you do that, you reinforce the shift. You tell your nervous system, this is who we are now. You tell your subconscious, this is what we do. And the more you do that, the more natural it becomes. The more effortless it feels, not because life got easier, but because you got stronger. Raising your standards is not a one-time decision. It is not something you do once and never revisit. It is something you recommit to every single day. Because life will test your new standard. It will test your resolve. It will throw distractions, temptations, and challenges in your path to see if you really meant what you said. And this is where most people fall. They raise their standard for a moment. They get inspired. They make a declaration. But the first time life pushes back, they drop right back into old patterns. They let one bad day become a bad week. They let one slip up turn into a backslide. Not because they are weak, but because they didn't build a system around their new standard. Because a new standard is only as strong as the structure that supports it. You cannot rely on motivation. You cannot rely on emotion. You need a system, a structure, habits, accountability, rituals that remind you of who you are and what you stand for. If you say you're done tolerating inconsistency, but you don't create a daily routine that supports consistency, your standard will break under pressure. If you say you're raising the bar on your health, but your kitchen is full of junk food and your schedule has no space for exercise, the old habits will win. So you build around your new identity. You create an environment that reinforces your new standard. You remove the triggers that feed your old patterns. You design your space, your calendar, your habits in a way that makes your new standard easy to live up to. And that includes the people you surround yourself with, because your standards will rise or fall to the level of your circle. You cannot expect to raise your life while staying surrounded by people who are content with the bare minimum. People who constantly complain. People who make excuses. People who normalize quitting. You don't need people who challenge your value. You need people who challenge your standards. People who remind you of your potential. People who hold you accountable to your best self. People who don't let you settle for less than what you're capable of. And if you don't have that kind of circle yet, you become that person for yourself. You become your own coach, your own challenger, your own accountability. You set the tone for your environment. Because the moment you raise your standard, your circle will start to shift. Either the people around you will rise with you, or they will fall away. And that's part of the process. Growth is not just about addition. It's about subtraction. It's about letting go of the habits, the mindsets, and sometimes the relationships that no longer serve the new version of you. That's not cruelty. That's clarity. That's commitment. And as you build this new standard into your life, you'll face internal resistance. The voice in your head will try to pull you back. It will tell you, who do you think you are? It will say, you've never done this before. It will whisper, you're not ready. It's too late. You don't have what it takes. That voice is not truth. It's your old standard fighting for survival. Because every time you level up, your subconscious resists. It wants to keep you safe. It wants to keep you comfortable. It wants to keep you familiar. But growth is not familiar. Growth is not comfortable. And safety has never produced greatness. So you train your mind to recognize that voice, not as truth, but as signal. A signal that you're on the edge of a breakthrough. A signal that you are stretching beyond your previous limits. A signal that you're right where you need to be. And then you take action anyway. Because that is how you silence that voice. Not by arguing with it, not by reasoning with it, but by moving through it. By showing yourself that you are no longer governed by the fear of failure, the fear of judgment, the fear of discomfort. Every time you act in alignment with your new standard, you weaken that old voice. You rewire your identity. You reinforce your new normal. You give yourself evidence that you are no longer the person you used to be. And as that evidence stacks up, your confidence grows. Not the kind of confidence that's loud and flashy, but the kind of quiet confidence that comes from integrity, from knowing that you are who you say you are, from trusting yourself to follow through. Because real confidence doesn't come from words. It comes from action. It comes from alignment. It comes from knowing that your behavior reflects your standard. And that kind of confidence is unshakable. Because it's not dependent on results. It's not dependent on validation. It's rooted in who you've become. And that's the real reward of raising your standard. Yes, your results will improve. Yes, your habits will get stronger. Yes, your life will start to shift. But the deepest reward is what happens inside you. The person you become when you stop settling. The person you become when you stop making excuses. The person you become when you decide that nothing less than your best is acceptable. Once you've raised your standards, built structure around them, and started reinforcing them through action, there's another layer that begins to reveal itself. And that layer is the resistance between where you are and where you want to be. Because raising your standard doesn't eliminate the gap. It illuminates it. It shows you how far you still have to go. And that truth can be uncomfortable. But that discomfort is a gift. It's clarity. It's showing you the space between your potential and your performance. The space between your talk and your walk. The space between who you are and who you're capable of becoming. That space is not a punishment. It's an invitation. And when you lean into that space, when you stop avoiding the truth, when you stop pretending, when you stop hiding from your own reflection, something powerful happens. You begin to reclaim your power. Because the moment you stop lying to yourself, you stop weakening yourself. Most people don't fail because of circumstances. They fail because of self-deception. They tell themselves they're doing their best when they're not. They convince themselves they're committed when they're not. They blame things outside of themselves to avoid confronting what's going on inside themselves. But high performers, people who live with extraordinary standards, they don't play that game. They are brutally honest with themselves, not to tear themselves down, but to build something real, something solid, something that lasts, because truth is the foundation of transformation. So you start calling yourself out, not with judgment, but with ownership. You start noticing where you're slipping. You catch the moments where your standard starts to bend, and you don't rationalize it. You don't explain it away. You hold the line. And in that process, you develop a trait that most people never develop: self-respect. Because when you raise your standard and actually live by it, something shifts inside of you. You begin to trust yourself. You begin to believe in yourself, not because of external praise, but because you know deep down that you are in alignment with your highest self. And self-respect leads to power. Because when you respect yourself, you stop needing validation from others. You stop lowering your standard to make other people comfortable. You stop apologizing for wanting more, for doing more, for becoming more. And you realize something. You've been carrying power this entire time. It wasn't outside of you. It wasn't waiting to be found. It was waiting to be activated. And the key that unlocks it: standards. What you demand from yourself, what you expect from yourself, what you refuse to tolerate from yourself. And when you start living at that level consistently, your world starts to reflect it. Your relationships change because people treat you how you treat yourself. And when you start honoring your word, following through and living with clarity, you attract people who do the same. You no longer tolerate one-sided relationships. You no longer accept disrespect. You no longer chase people who don't show up, because your new standard creates a new filter. And anything that doesn't match that standard simply doesn't make it into your life. Your environment changes. You stop spending time in places that drain you. You stop feeding your mind with garbage. You start designing your life to support your growth, not because someone told you to, but because you've decided that your environment will match your evolution. Your time becomes sacred. You no longer waste hours on distractions. You no longer say yes to things that don't align with your mission. You begin to see your time not just as minutes on a clock, but as the fuel of your future. And once you see it that way, you protect it with everything you've got. And your habits, they stop being things you have to do and become things you get to do. Because now, you're not doing them to escape pain or impress others. You're doing them because that's who you are now. The person who shows up, the person who follows through, the person who leads themselves. And here's the most powerful part. When you start living with higher standards, you begin to influence others without even trying. People watch you. They notice. They feel your energy. And without preaching, without forcing, without needing recognition, you begin to raise the standard in every room you walk into. You become a leader, not because you have a title, but because your life speaks for itself. Your consistency, your clarity, your conviction, they say more than words ever could. And people either rise with you or they move out of your way. But that leadership, it starts with self-leadership, because no one will follow someone who cannot lead themselves. And that leadership is not about being perfect. It's about being committed. It's about falling and getting up. It's about owning your growth and refusing to make excuses. So when things get hard, and they will, you don't collapse. You don't lower your standard to match your circumstances. You raise your effort to match your standard. You rise, you adapt, you persist, not because it's easy, but because you've decided that quitting is no longer on the table. When you live with high standards, life doesn't get easier. It gets clearer. You start to see what you were blind to before. You start noticing what you used to tolerate. You become aware of how much time you used to waste, how many excuses you used to make, how often you gave away your power for comfort, convenience, or approval. And that awareness is sharp. At first it can sting, because now you're seeing all the ways you held yourself back. You're seeing your own patterns with brutal honesty, not because you want to beat yourself up, but because truth always precedes growth. And if you want to go to the next level, you have to be willing to confront what's real. Not the story you've told yourself, not the filtered version, but the truth. Where have I been cutting corners? Where have I been lying to myself? Where have I been choosing ease over excellence? Because if you don't confront it, you can't correct it. You can't change what you won't own. And most people are stuck, not because they're incapable, but because they keep running from the truth. They think avoidance will protect them, but avoidance is the very thing keeping them stuck. Your standard is forged in the fire of those hard conversations with yourself. In the quiet moments when no one's watching, when there's no applause, no reward, just you and your decisions, just you and the standard you've chosen to live by. And the people who live at the highest level, they do not negotiate with their standard. They do not need an audience to show up. They do not need praise to stay disciplined. Their reward is internal. It's the pride that comes from knowing they're doing the work, whether anyone sees it or not. And that kind of pride, that kind of quiet self-respect is priceless. It doesn't fade. It doesn't depend on anyone else. It stays with you. It grows inside of you. And over time, it becomes your strength. It becomes your fuel. But it only comes when you raise the bar and refuse to lower it again. When you stop adjusting your standard to your mood. When you stop measuring your commitment by how you feel and start measuring it by what you said you'd do. Because every time you follow through, you reinforce that standard. Every time you keep your word, you send a message to yourself, we're not going back. Every time you do what needs to be done, especially when you don't want to, you anchor in the new identity. And over time, that identity becomes automatic. What used to feel hard becomes natural. What used to be a struggle becomes a habit. What used to require effort becomes effortless. Because repetition creates identity. Repetition makes it real. But repetition requires patience. And this is where most people fall short. They expect immediate results. They want change to be fast. And when it's not, they assume it's not working. They think something is wrong. But nothing is wrong. Change is happening. It's just happening internally before it shows up externally. And if you can trust that process, if you can keep showing up, keep doing the work, keep honoring the standard, even when the results are invisible, you will get to a point where the results can't be denied. You will get to a place where the growth is obvious, where people start asking, what changed? But by then it won't even feel like a transformation, because to you it will just be normal. It will be who you are. You won't feel like you're trying anymore. You'll just be living at a higher level because you built it one action at a time, one decision at a time, one standard at a time. And here's the truth no one wants to admit. Most people already know what they need to do. They don't need more information. They don't need a perfect plan. They don't need someone to hold their hand. What they need is a higher standard. Because once your standard rises, you'll find a way. You'll become resourceful. You'll get creative. You'll stay up later. You'll get up earlier. You'll remove distractions. You'll stop wasting time. You'll figure things out, not because it's easy, but because your new standard won't let you accept anything less. That's the power of raising your standard. It activates your potential. It forces you to evolve. It brings out qualities you didn't know you had. And it does something even more powerful. It eliminates options. When your standard is excellence, quitting is no longer on the menu. When your standard is growth, staying stuck is no longer an option. When your standard is integrity, excuses lose their power. And that kind of clarity changes everything. Because now you're no longer making decisions based on how you feel. You're making decisions based on who you are. And when your decisions are aligned with your identity, your new, elevated identity, you become unstoppable. You've always had the power to change your life. It was never about what you lacked. It was never about waiting for the right moment, or getting the perfect conditions, or finding someone to give you permission. It was about deciding once and for all that the standards you've lived by up until now are no longer acceptable. Everything you want begins with that decision, that moment of clarity where you draw a line in the sand and say, this is where it changes. This is who I become now. This is the new level I hold myself to from this day forward. Because no change lasts unless it's supported by a new standard. No breakthrough sustains itself without a new baseline. No transformation becomes permanent until your identity, your discipline, your behavior, and your expectations are all aligned. And you don't get there through willpower alone. You get there by raising your minimum, by shifting what you call acceptable, by refusing to return to the level that once felt normal to you, by elevating the floor, not just the ceiling. You already know this. When your standard is low, you can have moments of greatness, but they won't last. The moment life throws pressure, the moment fatigue hits, the moment motivation fades, you'll fall back to your default. That's what most people call failure, but it's not failure. It's a return to standard. So change the standard, raise the level, redefine what's normal, build a structure around it, anchor your actions to it, surround yourself with people who match it, speak to yourself in alignment with it, and do not waver, especially when it's hard. Because that's when your new identity is being tested. That's when your new life is taking shape. Not when things are easy, but when your environment pushes against your new standard and you push back harder. The rewards for living this way are not just external. Yes, your results will change. Yes, people will notice. Yes, opportunities will come. But the real reward is who you become. Someone who doesn't shrink. Someone who doesn't settle. Someone who follows through, not for the world, but for yourself. That kind of self-respect cannot be bought. That kind of self-trust cannot be faked. It is earned one action at a time, one decision at a time, one moment where you choose to rise instead of retreat. So from this day forward, check yourself. Not once, not occasionally, but every day. Ask, does this decision match my standard? Does this behavior reflect who I am becoming? Am I honoring what I said I do? Or am I slipping back into comfort? And when you find yourself slipping, and you will, you correct it. You don't quit. You don't spiral. You don't shame yourself. You reset. You reinforce the line. You remind yourself that this is a new life now. This is not about perfection. It's about progress. It's about refusing to negotiate with your old self. It's about raising your standards so high that the only version of you that survives is the one who leads, executes, delivers, and dominates. Because when that version of you becomes your normal, everything in your life changes to reflect it. Your health, your relationships, your finances, your influence, your peace. It all rises to meet the new you. It's not just about money. It's about the way you think, the habits you form, and the way you see the world. You see, success isn't something you chase. It's something you attract by the person you become. And the mindset of a millionaire is not reserved for the wealthy. It's a way of life that anyone can cultivate. It's about expanding your vision, breaking through mental barriers, and developing disciplines that lead to extraordinary results. But where does it begin? It begins with understanding that your mind is the most powerful tool you have. What you feed it, what you focus on, and how you train it will determine your level of success. As a man thinketh, so is he. It's ancient wisdom, but it's as true today as it ever was. Your thoughts shape your reality. The good news is that your mindset isn't fixed. It can be molded, sharpened, and refined. You're not stuck with the thinking you have today. If you want to develop a millionaire mindset, you must begin by taking responsibility for your own mind. Not your neighbor's mind, not your boss's mind, your own. Too many people spend their days blaming others or circumstances, but I'm telling you, blame is the language of failure. Responsibility is the language of success. Once you take responsibility, you put yourself in the driver's seat of your life. You get to choose what thoughts you allow, what influences you accept, and what direction you move in. Now, I want to walk you through 3 powerful methods that, if applied consistently, can help you develop this mindset. Each method is simple in concept, but demands discipline and persistence to implement. Remember, it's not just what you learn here today, it's what you do with it. Knowledge without action is just potential sitting dormant. But when you take that knowledge and apply it, that's when transformation happens. We're going to move through this rather quickly now, so pay attention. Here's the first method. The first method is reprogramming your beliefs about money and success. This is foundational because your beliefs act as the filter through which you see the world. If your beliefs about money are limited, negative, or rooted in fear, they will sabotage your efforts no matter how hard you work. So, to develop a millionaire mindset, you must identify and rewrite the stories you've been telling yourself about wealth. Think about this for a moment. What did you hear about money growing up? Maybe it was that money doesn't grow on trees or those rich people are greedy. We can't afford that. These messages, often repeated and reinforced by well-meaning parents, teachers, or society, become deeply ingrained in your subconscious. And once they're there, they operate like a program in the background, influencing your decisions, behaviors, and outcomes. If you believe even subconsciously that money is evil or that it's only for a select few, you'll unconsciously repel it. You'll find yourself sabotaging opportunities, making poor financial decisions, or simply settling for less than you're capable of achieving. The first step to reprogramming is awareness. You must bring those limiting beliefs to the surface. Ask yourself, what do I believe about money? What do I believe about success? Where did those beliefs come from? Write them down. Don't judge them. Just observe. Once you've identified them, the next step is to challenge them. Is it true that rich people are greedy? Of course not. There are greedy rich people, but there are also generous, kind, and philanthropic rich people. Is it true that money is hard to come by? Not necessarily. Money flows where value is created. If you focus on creating value for others, money has a way of finding you. And once you've challenged those limiting beliefs, You have to replace them with empowering ones. This is where affirmations and visualization come in. Start telling yourself a new story about money and success. You got to tell yourself that you're capable of creating wealth. You got to tell yourself that money is a tool you use to create a better life for yourself and others. Repetition is key here. The more you repeat these empowering beliefs, the more they will sink into your subconscious. But it's not just about saying the words, it's about feeling them, visualizing them, and acting as if they're already true. Visualization is a powerful tool. Picture yourself living the life you desire. Imagine the kind of work you're doing, the people you're surrounded by, and the contributions you're making. Make it vivid. Why? Because the subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's vividly imagined. When you visualize consistently, you begin to rewire your brain to align with the reality you're creating in your mind. And as your internal world changes, your external world begins to follow. But reprogramming your beliefs isn't just about mental exercises. It also requires action. You see, beliefs are reinforced by experience. If you believe you're capable of earning more, take action to prove it to yourself. Every time you take action and see results, your belief in what's possible grows stronger. It's a positive feedback loop. The more you believe, the more you achieve. The more you achieve, the more you believe. Here's a critical point. Surrounding yourself with the right influences is essential. If you're constantly around people who complain about money, criticize the wealthy, or have a scarcity mindset, those attitudes will rub off on you. On the other hand, if you spend time with people who are ambitious, optimistic, and financially savvy, their beliefs and attitudes will start to influence you in a positive way. This doesn't mean you have to cut people out of your life, but it does mean you need to be intentional about the voices you allow to shape your thinking. Books, seminars, and mentors can also serve as powerful influences. Reading biographies of successful people can give you insight into their mindset and habits. When you see what's possible for others, it expands your vision of what's possible for yourself. If you want to be successful, study success. Because success leaves clues. Find those clues and use them to your advantage. And of course, being grateful plays a key role in reprogramming your beliefs. Why? Because being grateful shifts your focus from what you lack to what you have. It creates a sense of abundance, and when you feel abundant, you attract more abundance. Start each day by writing down 3 things you're grateful for. They don't have to be big, just something you genuinely appreciate. Over time, this simple practice will shift your mindset and open you up to greater possibilities. So, reprogramming your beliefs about money and success is the foundation for developing a millionaire mindset. It's about becoming aware of the stories you've been telling yourself, challenging those stories, replacing them with empowering beliefs, and taking action to reinforce those new beliefs. It's about surrounding yourself with the right influences and cultivating an attitude of gratitude. So that's the first method to developing a millionaire mindset. You have to reprogram your beliefs about money and success. The second method is mastering the art of discipline. Discipline is the bridge between thought and accomplishment, between desire and reality. Without it, even the best intentions fall apart. Developing a millionaire mindset requires consistent action, and discipline is the tool that ensures you stay on track. no matter the distractions or challenges that come your way. What is discipline, really? It's doing what you need to do when you need to do it, whether you feel like it or not. That's the key. Feelings are fickle. They come and go like the wind. If you only act when you feel motivated, your results will be inconsistent at best. But discipline creates results because it's rooted in commitment, not emotion. Tell me, how disciplined are you in your daily life? Do you have habits that align with your goals, or are you letting life pull you in every direction? You see, a millionaire mindset isn't built in a day. It's built daily. It's the small, consistent actions you take, compounded over time, that create massive results. As one of my favorite principles states, success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day. Start with your daily routine. Your day is your life in miniature, and how you spend it matters. Do you wake up with a purpose, or do you hit the snooze button and start the day on someone else's terms? Millionaires don't leave their mornings to chance. They plan their day the night before, so they wake up knowing exactly what they need to accomplish. It might sound simple, but planning your day is an act of discipline that sets the tone for everything else. Another critical area of discipline is how you use your time. Time is the one resource you can't get back. Every minute wasted is a minute you could have invested in your future. Ask yourself, is this activity moving me closer to my goals, or is it just filling time? Successful people are incredibly intentional with their time. They focus on high-value activities, the things that produce results. On the flip side, they avoid distractions like excessive television, gossip, or mindless scrolling through distractions. But discipline isn't just about what you do. It's also about what you don't do. It's about saying no to the things that don't serve you. This can be tough because the world is full of opportunities to get sidetracked. But here's the thing. Every yes is a no to something else. If you say yes to every social invitation, every low priority task, or every shiny new idea, you're saying no to your long-term goals. Discipline is about having the courage to say no to what's easy, so you can say yes to what's meaningful. Physical discipline is another pillar of the millionaire mindset. Your body is your greatest asset, and how you treat it affects everything else in your life. Regular exercise, a healthy diet, and adequate sleep aren't just good for your health, they're good for your mind. When your body is strong and energized, your mind is sharper, your mood is better, and your ability to handle stress improves. Neglecting your physical health, on the other hand, will drain your energy and limit your potential. Financial discipline is just as important. It's not enough to earn more money. You must also learn how to manage it wisely. Millionaires understand the importance of budgeting, saving, and investing. They don't spend recklessly or live beyond their means. Instead, they make their money work for them. One simple habit that can transform your financial discipline is paying yourself first. Before you spend a dime, set aside a portion of your income for savings and investments. This practice not only builds wealth over time, but also reinforces the mindset that your future is a priority. Discipline also extends to your emotional life. How do you react when things don't go your way? Do you let setbacks derail you, or do you stay focused and push through? Emotional discipline is about controlling your reactions, staying calm under pressure, and maintaining a positive attitude, even in challenging situations. It's about choosing your response instead of letting circumstances dictate your behavior. Here's an important point. Discipline isn't something you're born with. It's something you develop. It's like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. And just like building physical strength, building discipline requires starting small and being consistent. You don't need to overhaul your entire life overnight. Start with one area and commit to it. Once that habit is established, build on it with another. Over time, these small wins add up and create unstoppable momentum. Accountability can also help you stay disciplined. Share your goals with someone you trust and ask them to hold you accountable. Knowing that someone else is watching can give you that extra push to stay on track. Better yet, find a mentor or join a group of like-minded individuals who are also pursuing success. There's power in community, and being around disciplined people will inspire you to level up. Discipline isn't about being perfect. It's about progress. There will be days when you fall short, but don't let that discourage you. Get back on track as quickly as possible and keep moving forward. Consistency, not perfection, is what leads to success. Next, the third method is cultivating a mindset of continuous growth and learning. If you want to develop a millionaire mindset, you must become a lifelong student. You see, the world is constantly changing, and the most successful people are those who adapt, evolve, and keep learning. They understand that what got them to one level of success won't necessarily get them to the next. Growth isn't optional, it's essential. Ask yourself, when was the last time you invested in your mind? I'm not talking about formal education. I'm talking about the kind of learning that stretches your thinking, challenges your assumptions, and equips you to solve problems and seize opportunities. Millionaires don't stop learning when they leave school. In fact, that's when their real education begins. They read books, attend seminars, seek out mentors, and learn from their experiences. They treat their mind like a garden, constantly planting seeds of knowledge and weeding out anything that doesn't serve them. Reading is one of the simplest yet most powerful habits you can cultivate. Successful people read for growth. They devour books on personal development, business, finance, and other topics that help them improve. Why? Because books give you access to the best thinking of the brightest minds, often for the price of a few dollars. Imagine being able to learn directly from someone who has achieved what you aspire to achieve. That's the power of reading. But reading alone isn't enough. You must also apply what you learn. Knowledge without application is like a car without fuel. It won't take you anywhere. When you read something valuable, ask yourself, how can I use this in my life? How can this idea help me grow, solve a problem, or achieve a goal? Then take action. Even a small step can create momentum and lead to significant results over time. Mentorship is another cornerstone of continuous growth. Find someone who has already achieved what you're striving for and learn from them. A mentor can provide guidance, share their experiences, and help you avoid costly mistakes. They can see things from a perspective you might not have considered, and their insights can save you years of trial and error. If you can't find a mentor in person, remember that books, recordings, and seminars are forms of mentorship too. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. Success leaves clues. Follow them. Here's another thing about growth. You have to treat your challenges and failures as opportunities to learn. Too many people avoid discomfort, but the truth is, growth happens outside your comfort zone. When you take on challenges, you stretch your abilities and develop new skills. And when you fail, which you will at times, you gain valuable lessons that you can use to improve. Failure isn't the opposite of success. It's part of the process. Every successful person has failed, but what sets them apart is their willingness to learn from those failures and keep moving forward. Developing a growth mindset also means being open to feedback. Feedback is a gift, even when it's hard to hear. It shows you where you're strong and where you need to improve. Instead of taking criticism personally, use it as a tool for growth. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can I use this to get better? The most successful people are constantly seeking ways to improve, and feedback is one of the fastest ways to do that. And most of you already know this one. Make sure you have a good circle. Surrounding yourself with growth-minded people is another key. Your environment plays a significant role in shaping your mindset. If you're around people who are content with mediocrity, it's easy to fall into that same pattern. But if you're around people who are ambitious, curious, and constantly striving to improve, their energy will inspire you to do the same. And take time to reflect. Take time to evaluate your progress, celebrate your wins, and identify areas for improvement. Reflection allows you to learn from your experiences and make adjustments as needed. Ask yourself questions like, what did I do well today? What could I have done better? What's one thing I'll do differently tomorrow? And here's the key. You must be adaptable. The world is full of change, and those who resist it get left behind. A millionaire mindset embraces change as an opportunity rather than a threat. When new technologies, trends, or challenges emerge, ask yourself, how can I use this to my advantage? How can I position myself to succeed in this new environment? Adaptability is a skill that keeps you relevant and competitive in a rapidly changing world. And guess what? Continuous growth requires humility. It's about recognizing that no matter how much you know, there's always more to learn. It's about being willing to ask questions, admit what you don't know, and seek help when you need it. The moment you think you've arrived is the moment you stop growing. Keep an open mind, stay curious, and always be willing to learn from others. This method requires commitment and action. It's not enough to know the importance of growth. You must make it a daily priority. Read, learn, reflect. You got to seek feedback and take on challenges. Over time, these habits will shape your thinking, expand your potential, and position you for extraordinary success. Developing a millionaire mindset is not about luck, talent, or circumstances. It's about intention, discipline, and consistent effort. Each of the methods we've explored, reprogramming your beliefs about money and success, mastering the art of discipline, and cultivating a mindset of continuous growth, forms a critical part of the foundation for success. When you apply them together, they create a powerful synergy that can transform your life. Here's the beautiful part. These methods are available to anyone. You don't need a head start, special resources, or unique opportunities to begin. What you need is the decision to commit. A millionaire mindset doesn't happen by accident. It's something you develop step by step, day by day. The question is, are you willing to put in the work? Think about the possibilities. What could your life look like a year from now if you committed to reprogramming your beliefs, building unshakable discipline, and dedicating yourself to growth? Imagine what you could achieve in 5 years, 10 years, or a lifetime. The results might astonish you. But it all begins with a choice. The choice to think differently, act differently, and become the kind of person who attracts success. Remember, success is not about reaching a destination. It's about becoming. It's about the person you grow into along the way. Every small step you take, every discipline you master, every belief you transform, it's all shaping you into someone capable of achieving greatness. And that's what a millionaire mindset is ultimately about. It's not just about money or material wealth. It's about living a life of purpose, impact, and fulfillment. So as you move forward, keep these principles close. Revisit them often. Reflect on your progress, celebrate your wins, and learn from your challenges. Stay focused on your vision, and don't let temporary setbacks deter you from your ultimate goal. You have everything you need within you to succeed. Now it's time to take action and make it happen. The question I leave you with is this: what will you do today to take the first step?